Hey, you guys, this is Courtney Camaro. I'm outside of Muhammad Ali's real original home. We're in Chicago, and I wanted to shout out Al's Botanics and Herbs. Man, when I tell you, I am one of those people that has insomnia. I can't sleep. I can't focus on some days because I'm so sleep deprived, and this has helped. This is one of the mixtures he has that helps with sleep.
What's going on tonight? Decided to drop in. It's been a while, so I just basically come off the dome and give it right to you in that full context format. Basically, a lot of things are answered by this by what I'm going to be talking about in this live stream. One of those things is religious conflicts, even racial identity conflicts. Like for example, when you look at places like in the Middle East and Africa and other parts of the world, they really, really do have religious battles and civil wars and stuff like that. They really, really do have religious cultural wars in other countries. And you think to yourself, "Well, why don't people in America, why don't people in the West have the same issues?" I mean, they do have similar issues, but why do they not take it? Why they don't go in depth as far as to have some type of religious conflict or even racial conflict? And very simply, one of the things that I learned in even being religious, even the idea of even having a cultural identity. Um, One of the things about America, and even just you could just say the globe, the need for capital, okay, pretty much overrides a lot of people's, let's just say, cultural beliefs or religious beliefs or cultural identity. I mean, basically, America in a lot of parts of the West, it's everything is about the money. You know, everything is about how much money you have right now. Okay, not what you had in the past or what you think you can have in the future. It's what do you have right now. Basically, money is the ultimate, basically, trump card. Okay. If you got money, cool. If you don't, a lot of people don't even want to associate with people that don't have, are not in a particular tax bracket. It doesn't matter, even to be honest, a lot of people, a lot of people right now, they are going through some challenges trying to understand how do they intertwine religion in this capitalistic society. And people are scratching their heads trying to figure that out because it doesn't matter how faithful you are. It doesn't matter what religion you have. The only thing that matters is, are you able to pay your rent the next month, or mortgage, car payments, insurance, daycare bills if you have them, private school bills if you have them, your landscaping service, your water and sewage bills, your taxes. If you don't have that money, doesn't matter all of the extra curricular activities you like to have or what you involved with, you'll basically be out, you know, homeless. And America has quite a bit of homeless population in this country. I think we have about a million or more. Let me check here. Let me check to see. And that doesn't really, like, whatever figure I do get, it's not the true exact figure, because you got a lot of people that are considered homeless. I mean, hell, I my definition of homeless is very, very broad. It's not even the definition that people have, because I believe anybody that don't have a house is homeless. Like, I mean, if you don't have any real estate, like, you don't have a house, you homeless, in my opinion. But it's people's opinions or people's viewpoints. If people thought like that, then they don't want people to think like that, because you got to think about it. I know I'm drifting a little bit. Actually, not. But you just think about it, right? If everybody thought like I did, right? Where if their definition of being homeless is you don't have a home, then a lot of people that are property managers or landlords, they wouldn't make a lot of money, because nobody hardly will be trying to rent. Basically, more real estate prices will probably, I don't really know what they would do in that case. I mean, um I don't know. It'll probably real estate prices. I don't know. I don't really know what real estate prices would do in a situation where, because obviously you'd have a lot of people in commercial housing. I mean, uh they would have to convert apartments into condos and all kinds of stuff they would have to do, because um the idea is, even if you have a studio apartment, you're not necessarily homeless. That's just the standard as far as what people believe in America. You know, Even if you got an apartment, you're technically not homeless. Even if you live with others, you're technically not homeless. But that lower definition is kind of dangerous too, because that brings you that much closer to being homeless. Like, if you live in an apartment, you're probably most likely, or even it's not so much you're renting an apartment. If you're just renting, period, you're much more closer to homelessness than anybody in society. The reason being is, apartments really don't hold a lot of they don't really hold a lot of weight when it comes to kind of, let's just say, stalling. Like, you can only stall so much with an apartment, versus if you have a house, you could probably stall a little bit more longer. You can't stall out in an apartment. I mean, pressure will be put upon you very, very quickly in an apartment or any type of rental type of agreement. So the thing is that society sets the standard that you are not considered homeless if you're a renter. So because society sets the standard that people's interpretation of you is that if you got a rent, if you're paying rent, that's not a big deal, and that's okay and acceptable. So that's why people do it. If people believe that you're homeless, even if you pay rent somewhere, then a lot of people wouldn't be paying rent, or they'll be embarrassed to do so. And that's why people do it. But at the same time, a lot of what I'm saying is every everything kind of gets foolish in America when it comes to whatever silly thing that you believe in, or whatever religion that you have, or whatever your thoughts are. Americans, I'm sure, pretty sure a lot of people generally just in the West, this is what they do in a lot of Western countries, in either other countries. So in America, according to 2024, I was close. It's about 700,000, over 700,000 people that are homeless in the United States. So a little shy of a million people. Okay, so um the thing is, like I'm saying, is you kind of look people look at you as goofy when you don't have your money together. That's why people lie about their financial status. That is the whole reason why you go to somebody's house and they have a whole bunch of clothes, and they got designer clothes and all kinds of different things, because nobody wants to look like their actual true financial um profile. I'll just say they people want to hide their profile. Okay, the rich and wealthy, what they tend to do is live a regular, normal profile. Most of the rich and wealthy are, they, basically try to, when they go out in public, look indiscreet so they can kind of blend in. Because they already got money, they don't have to impress anyone. Well, with people that don't have money, it's an opposite effect. What they tend to do is they they basically try to max out their cars, max out their clothes, and to them, that they put on an image of a rich person that, basically flaunts his wealth, because there are quite a few there are quite a few rich and wealthy people that flaunt their wealth. Now, the reason why I always most of the time say rich and wealthy, because there's a difference between rich and wealthy. Rich is some shit you can do. I mean, you can fucking hit a parlay for $1 million and you're rich. I mean, like, you can, you can hit a one parlay, or you could get a scratch a lottery ticket. You go to the casino tonight and get rich. Rich is like, something that you can do relatively easily, or for a longer period of time. You could get actually rich. People, I think just this year I read an article that the amount of 401k millionaires are increasing. Basically, people that work for some company, or private sector or public sector, they got a 401k, they worked enough to basically have over $1 million in funding in their 401k. That number has increased substantially. Okay, so by definition, to a certain extent, yeah, you are rich. Now, rich differs from place to place. If you're in the Northeast, $1 million, you're not technically that, you're not that rich with $1 million in New York or California, versus maybe if you were in the Midwest or in a deep South. $1 million probably would, stretch out a little bit more in those places than the Northeast and West Coast, primarily California, so or Los Angeles, or Orange County. That just you might need to um put probably maybe five, maybe because just say a range of 5 million, 5 million would definitely put you in that rich category. Now wealth is something more long term, and it's something that it doesn't necessarily come from getting some one lottery ticket or hitting a fire parlay, with a little meat on it. Basically, if you could hit like in FanDuel. I don't know the other apps, but the most you can win on FanDuel is actually $1 million. You don't really need that much. You could just basically have, you could have 17 legs. It's not necessarily doesn't matter about the legs. It matters what the odds are. You can have, all it takes is probably a couple, maybe about, let's just say 1,000 odds, different plays or parlay player props or whatever, that would break basically put you at like $1 million for $1. Like if you put just $1 on that bet, that will put you at $1 million if it hits. The odds of it hitting is literally probably on a level of hitting a lottery or a Powerball or something like that. But yeah, you could do that. But wealth is just as easy as you can get rich. It's not easy necessarily to get wealth, because wealth is a little different in a sense of, just imagine you have some type of system to where you could make $1 million every day, or you generate more money with the money that you make, and you have some type of holding company, and then you got a bunch of other companies within that holding company that you own. um that, let's just say, that takes about 20 years to build, to formulate. And you got money spread out all over the place. You got different bank accounts. You basically, wealth is just a distribution. Let's just say, for a definition for a 5-year-old to understand, the difference between rich and wealthy is, rich is something that you can definitely attain easily, and it's probably somewhere north of $1 million or more. You consider rich. Wealth, um, wealth is something that is a distribution. Let's just say a distribution of riches. Like you actually have some type of catalog of different assets, primarily money generating assets that are spread out, and it makes you money every single day. That is like something that is wealthy, considered wealth, right? And typically, it takes time to do that, and it's not something easy you could do. It's not something that you could just start overnight, or you can get all of a sudden overnight. It's something that builds. It usually takes a lifetime to build. So broadly, those are the two definitions. But in a sense of, why people do that, as far as the, how a lot of people that are not rich, which you could basically say, um about 90% of Americans are technically not rich. I'll just say 80%. 80% of Americans are technically not rich or wealthy. Okay. I'd have to break down how many people are actually wealthy, because it's more it's a lot of rich people, but it's not that many wealthy people. That's why people, you wonder, and I wonder myself, but the older I got and the more I, learned, the more I learned, the more I understood why people do this. But you got these, athletes, entertainers, they get rich beyond measure. They getting hundreds of $1 million, 10 million, 20 million. And then you look up and then they telling you how they're broke, and you like, damn, how did you go broke? Like, you had all of this money. And it's like basically that's how easy it is to lose riches. It is easy, just as like I said, this is a country that you can wake up poor and go to sleep rich. You can do that. Like I say, usually you're gonna have to do something that involves gambling, most likely. Most likely you're gonna be doing something that involves gambling, right? And you can technically gamble and make $1 million, okay, off of very limited amounts of money. Let's just say $100 or less, you can possibly become a millionaire in one day, right? And that's all it takes, right? Well, is someone getting $1 million in one day versus $100 million, it doesn't matter. It's still the same. They're instantly rich. Okay, they got this money, they got a contract or something like that, and then they blow through the money because they don't have wealth. And then most of the people that have wealth, families that have wealth, individuals, estates that have wealth, they learn things and they built that wealth over time. So they're not necessarily going to blow their wealth. A lot of the wealth that is blown, let's just say generational wealth, it's blown by heirs. Okay, heirs, typically second or third generation, they blow through the family wealth. Okay, they blow through it. They basically, it's like you born with a lottery ticket, you're spoiled, then you blow through the money, and then by your children, if you do have any children, then whatever's left, they blow through that. They anything's left, they blow through it. Typically, it's drugs, sex, alcohol, mental illness, and basically hyper spending blows through wealth over generations. Riches can be lost very, very easily as they're gained. They could be lost because one, you don't have generating assets, you just have actual income. And it's just once you run out of that income, once you run out of that money, that's over. You can't generate any more money, and then you're left to whatever you can provide for yourself. But to the topic, as far as America's true religion, the reason again we don't have a lot of those, we do have a lot of cultural strifes and religious strifes to a certain extent, as well as cultural, ethnic identity, you know, um, battles. At the end of the day, um, when you don't have any money in this country, to be honest, this is why, like I say, the have-nots, let's just say, or the non-rich, and wealthy, they go out of their way to look wealthy and rich, and the rich and wealthy, or let's just even just say the wealthy, they kind of go out of their way to just look average because they already have it, and they know they don't want to get robbed. They don't want their identity, their cover blown in most cases, right? So they try to look modest and average. But the reason why the non-rich and wealthy do that is you're considered a clown if you're broke in America. If you broke in the West, probably even a lot of different parts of the world, if in fact you are without money, you're considered a joke. You're considered a clown. And clowns and fools are not taken serious. And that's why in America, people, they come over here from other countries and they get a rude awakening. Some go back to their home countries because it is too competitive, and they realize the American dream kind of is a nightmare, you know. But the thing is that is why that's why America's true religion is capitalism. Capitalism is America's actual true religion, like the true religion genes. Like America, religion is capitalism. If you don't have the capital, you're whatever you're talking about. This, basically the blood of Jesus. The the path of Muhammad or whatever, you're considered a fool or a clown when your financial profile is someone that does not have money or have much money. You're not taken serious, because under all of the religions, the true religion in the West is capitalism. If you don't have capital, everything that you're saying is like almost you're speaking clown gibberish. And even to a certain degree, um there's people old and new that have talked about religion, and they basically was stated, I believe even Napoleon, Emperor Napoleon of France, he was quoted as saying that religion is something that is used to keep the poor people at bay, basically. Not his words to be exact, but basically religion is used to keep the poor people basically neutralized. Because if one of the things that poor people that are religious, one of the things that they're taught is, even if they might struggle in this life, there will be some type of paradise or heaven that they will be, rich beyond measure. They'll be able to talk to God himself, and they'll see all of their other loved ones up there once they die. So those that notion, just a thought, brings forth a dutiful slave that will be okay with never being rich or wealthy, and just basically be a dutiful servant to their religion. And that's been noted for for um way before I was born. My mother was born, my grandparents were born, and so on. That religion is a tool that is used to keep the peasants from uprising. Okay, so in a nutshell, that is what nobody is being told. That is the true religion. You're told by your grandma and your parents to work hard and believe in this and that, and they're not telling you that the true religion is capitalism. That is what the religion is. That is what they go to work for. Like my grandparents, the house that I'm in now, they had to get up every single day at like 5 and 6 o'clock in the morning to open up a store. Now they got very rich doing that. Okay. They were millionaires, black millionaires in the 70s, which is unheard of in the United States. They got very rich doing that, but they had to do that in order to um, you know, get accomplish that feat. Okay. They had to wake up every single day early in the morning and open a store, go to the bank, get currency, make deposits, have enough currency for, change for their cash registers for the day. They had to do that every single day. Okay. My parents had to work uh, you know, every day, pretty much. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a cab driver, and it was pretty much every single day. It was no, it did not stop. Only time it stopped was when they got sick and ultimately till they died, you know. Um and the thing is that my father was more religious than my mother was. But both were religious to some degree, or was part of some type of religious organization or something. Like my mom was, to her end, she was basically a member of the Nation of Islam. My dad was just basically just a Sunni Muslim or Orthodox Muslim. That's what they call. But basically, in the end, um, his religion did not save him. My mom's religious organization was not able to save her from unfortunately poverty, to be honest. Both of my parents pretty much they did not what they weren't able to work. Their children didn't have any wealth to give them much, and that's what their fate was, you know. And a lot of people, that is what their fate is through it all. And they realize, um, maybe not even never realize that behind their religion, behind all of the faith and everything, to a certain degree, um, it was a rouge for capitalism, and that's what it's a gift and a curse in the sense that that's why Americans don't really go too much into depth with religious conflicts and petty beefs and even religious disagreements. The political disagreements, they do hold probably more standing than anything, because politics have a lot of is you can get very wealthy in politics. There is a lot of politicians that they became lifelong politicians and got very wealthy. I didn't even notice I didn't say rich. They got actually wealthy. Okay. They established networks, they established contacts, they made money, and that money has been spread out, and they actually got wealthy. Okay. If you need a name, one name I would say would be what's the chick that be trading stocks? Um, she was part of the Democratic committee or whatever. I don't follow these people, man, and I'll be forgetting them. Um, I mean, I wish I had people that could just come out the clouds and just type in the chat, because I'm sure they know. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi. She's the Democratic Speaker of the House. She made so much money over the decades from the stock market. Her whoever brokers she trades with, they made more money for her than they have a higher percentage of return than even Warren Buffett. So yeah, you can get wealthy in politics. So it is a divisive issue. It is, an issue that can even get bloody. The one of the things that I've never seen that was kind of very divisive was when Trump was running for election. He had to actually dodge bullets to get elected. Okay. Um, he had multiple assassination attempts while he was running for president. A lot of people don't know that's actually what goes on in the Philippines. Actually, what goes on in the Philippines is actually worse. They actually have every election, they have actual shootouts. It's party against party because whoever gets elected, they get a lot of political power and also capital once they win. They do that in Africa too. Okay, they do that in Africa as well. So the thing about it is in this country, yeah, politics is one of those things that I will say it does get bloody because it's not just it's not just politics that's involved. It's actual power and capital decisions and lawmaking that can basically make others rich, very, very rich, and wealthy. So that's that because it's basically crossing it's a lot of capital involved. You follow the money, you follow the blood, right? You follow the blood trail. So that's one of the things why they went into Venezuela. In case you didn't know, the silver spot price actually, so you have two markets. You have this is to help you a layman understand what's going on with silver. So very quickly, so you have two markets. You have the actual physical silver market, where it's silver traders and dealers that actually have physical, bullion, physical, silver, okay, ounces, pounds. They have physical silver, and you have the actual financial markets that basically trade silver on paper in a sense. They basically have uh silver as far as a commodity, that they don't have the actual physical silver, but it's let's just say like a silver certificate. So what happened is basically with a lot of things in the stock market, in the markets, right, the US markets and foreign markets, they get really greedy. So they basically traded more silver in the markets, the actual stock markets or financial markets. They traded that more than they have in actual physical silver supply. So the supply, like say all of those, let's just say theoretically, all of the paper trades came in and they say, we need actual physical silver. They don't even have enough physical silver to supply. So basically, it was an oversupply of financial silver, let's just say derivatives or actual physical or silver in the financial markets. That was more than what they actually had in actual the physical silver markets, where they have actual tons and tons of silver. They didn't have enough to cover basically what the actual financial markets were trading. So it was a panic to a certain extent, where you got to understand a lot of major corporations and major financial markets or companies were going to be in trouble because they don't have the actual tonnage of silver. And you got to understand, silver is used to make everything from, weapons to cars to computers, satellites, um, all kinds of things are used for silver. So when they don't have enough silver, they have to go get it from somewhere else. And basically, South America has a lot of silver, actually has the most silver in the world. So that was just basically, it was a financial hit. And then also Ecuador has well, Venezuela has one of the very, they have basically, for them to be a poor country, I mean, basically they've been dealing with a lot of global threats and global coercion or orchestration to undermine that country. And it is a continuation of it now, what you're seeing now. But you really gotta think, right? And it's like it's really tripped out. But Venezuela, I don't know why I keep saying Ecuador. Venezuela has the most oil in anywhere in the world, and they also have silver, and other things too. I believe they even have gold, but the country, the populace is poor as shit. I mean, you gotta think about it, right? Look at the Arab countries, the Arab Gulf oil producing nations, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. Um, let's take Bahrain out of it. Let's say the Emirates, okay? Um, Even Iran. They have a lot of the people do make money from that wealth. That oil wealth does produce a certain higher quality of life, especially for, I'll just say, for like Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, Qatar, it's a lot of Arab Gulf nations, oil producing nations that are part of the OPEC, that the people are basically balling out of control. Okay, they have a lot of wealth. Like for example, Qatar, their populace get a check. They get a check from the oil that they produce, like a dividend check for just being a citizen of Qatar. They get a certain amount of money every year from basically the oil production. And you got Venezuela with the most oil in the world. They're in poverty. The average standard is poverty. They have currency fluctuations. Their currency is devalued, very seriously devalued. It just doesn't make sense. The only thing is that they're basically have been targeted a long time ago, and they just basically it's kind of like a bully, right? You take a bully, and bully has targets. And once you become a target to a bully, he's not gonna stop. He's gonna come back. Okay, if he picks your pocket one time, he's gonna come back and keep picking in your pocket. And then if you don't have enough money, it's gonna be a problem. Or if you don't have any money, it's gonna be a problem. And he's just gonna keep coming at you. And that's why certain countries like Haiti, even Venezuela, they get bullied, right? They get bullied by the West, and they get undermined because they're not strong enough to deal with the bully. Okay. And that's why they don't, that's why they have the issues that they have. And then the thing is that they have a lot of oil, and they have these silver deposits. They have tons and tons of silver. So by proxy of getting rid of Maduro was trying to stand up to the bully, and he was a problem because he was a very meaty target. He was a very good target, and they had to come up with some type of way to get rid of him, and they finally did, right? Basically they got unfiltered access now to that oil, to the tons and tons of silver and whatever commodities they have in that ground. Okay. Because basically capitalism. Capitalism has to have fuel. If it does not have fuel, then it basically cools down and it stops operating. Okay. Capitalism needs fuel to continue on. So the thing is that that explains that. Like, you look at countries like Nigeria, you could look at countries like even Ethiopia and Sudan. I mean, even though they're fighting over resources as well, those countries are definitely fighting over resources. It's oil revenues and stuff in Nigeria, oil revenues, in like the Eastern Africa, and they're fighting for it, a lot of destabilization, and stuff like that. But the thing is that people in America, primarily have this system, and this system is capitalism. And if you don't have the capital, basically you get clowned. Okay. People get embarrassed when they're found out to be broke. Even to a certain extent, I'll just speak in the Black community. For example, you have a group called the Hebrew Israelites. And the Hebrew Israelites their notion is basically that they are the original Jews. They are Black, and they are the original Jews that have ultimate claim to the religion of Judaism, and they're the actual Jews. And basically white people are the fake Jews. Okay, the Jews from Ashkenazi, the Khazarians, are European Jews, and they are imposters. But the thing is those people, the Ashkenazis, the Khazarians, they are very wealthy. Okay. They've made a lot of money, primarily from capitalism. They made a lot of money exploiting different. They produce a lot of the diamonds out of Africa. They actually suck a lot of minerals out of Africa, and they get rich off of it. Primarily, they were the predominant slave traders in transatlantic slave trades in the West and the Caribbean. They made a lot of money off of that. They were heavily involved in the transatlantic slave trade. They financed the ships, they owned the ships, and they also owned slaves. And basically they pooled their money in modern society together to the point where 1/3 of every millionaire is a Jew. Even only giving them 2% of the population of the country of the United States, 1 out of every 3 millionaires is Jewish. Half of all of billionaires, more than half of all of the billionaires are Jewish. But the thing about the Hebrew Israelites, they these guys are, kind of dusty. They're kind of broke, right? They definitely don't have any of that wealth that these white Jews have. And they, people, they yelling on the streets, and they have these Power Ranger costumes and stuff, and um they claim to be, the original Jews and everything like that. And even if they are, even if that is true, which I do believe it even is true. The fact of the matter is, um these white people that are the Jews, they actually do work with each other, and they get wealthy with each other. For whatever reason or another, these Hebrew Israelites, it's a disconnect between them and the actual fake Jews and whatnot. And I will say, I mean, some of the things that the Jews are involved with, it goes into, it's not all good. It's definitely evil involved in that to a certain extent. I'm not saying all of their dealings are evil, but they are involved in certain evil activities. Okay. I'm not, going to mention anything, but yes, it's definitely something that they are involved with. But they do a lot of business with each other, definitely marry within each other, and they've gotten rich and wealthy doing so. Okay. Whereas these Israelites that speak on the streets in these Power Ranger costumes, they have not been able to, um, you know, uh, cultural appropriate that, or not even cultural appropriate. They haven't been able to copy that part of how wealthy and rich they are. You know, and it's definitely not all magic how they got that way, or you know, them just basically being thirsty, thieving people or anything like that. It's just they was able to compound their wealth. Go to a lot of Jews are very heavily into education. They are very centered in education, graduate level education as well. And they basically make up a lot of the Nobel Peace Prize winners. A lot of they make up a lot of professors on college campuses and universities. They make up a lot of fields that require some type of graduate degree, like doctors, lawyers, uh, architects. They do make up a lot of those fields because they have the education to qualify. There's certain avenues, you do have to have a certain level of education. But the whole point is, one group are heavily into religion, the other group is quoted to be into religion, but they understand that capitalism is a power that can help your religion, okay, or your people, right? They understand that, whereas the Israelites, they don't seem to understand that or harness that understanding. Okay, that actually explains the whole concept of what I'm talking about very, very well. Okay, those two concepts of the Israelite, um, different Israelite sects, and the Jewish, that they call the Jewish or fake Jews, why they're so rich and wealthy versus the real Jews, the Hebrew Israelites, and So I don't really have anything more to say. I think that pretty much does it. It kind of help. This is something that just kind of help explains um why people act the way they do in America, why they don't even have some of the problems other countries have. Like they don't they don't have people out having bloody wars over religion and everything like that, because at the end of the day, whatever you're involved with, if it doesn't pay the rent, and then ultimately, because anybody that disrupts commerce and capitalism also gets arrested. You add those two things, and as far as that, and then also you got to, everybody has to pay rent and mortgage, and things how they are now, things are so high. You got a lot of people that are homeless as well. And homelessness is a growing issue in America, and also the rising poverty is also rising as well. So it's a lot of financial demand for people's day-to-day lives that it just doesn't it doesn't equate with religious fighting and everything like that. Pretty much if you got it's so tripped out. I have to I didn't state this earlier, but um all everything could damn near be erased if you got money. Like you could be a criminal, you could have you could have been bad in school, you could have been a bum most of your life. If you have money now, pretty much that's all that matters. People, they might laugh at you about your history or what you got involved with or what you did before, but if you have that capital now, that pretty much is all that matters. Like, to the mo to for the most point, even women, they don't really care. Women and men are different as far as things, because that's the thing with women. Women really don't care if you are a drug dealer, a scammer. I'm not gonna say all women, but a lot of women, the only things that they care about is that you actually have a lot of money, and if you have a flair for fun or whatever, that's even better. That's all they care about. Now, mean, they do have, they do suffer from that. It is some suffering that comes from that, because a lot of times those guys get locked up or get or die in the streets. Then they ultimately are, a single mother with children, that they have to find some other suitor, to take care of them, or deal with, being a single mother. So, but the thing is that, that's what it is. Like, that's why dudes go out and sell drugs and do things like that, because all it matters is if you have the capital. Because people's religion, and I guess maybe women understand that to a certain extent more, that if you got money, that's just kind of pretty much all that matters, and to a certain extent. But that's that's another conversation for another day. But I mean, men don't necessarily pursue women because they have money. It's a few men that do, and actually, that is a concept. That's something that I'm probably going to be talking about, because there is a thing that is opposite of hypergamy. There is, like, men can also be hypergamous. Um, let me get that definition of when men's version um of hypergamy. I wrote it down. There's so many things going on. I just forgot about it. But let me see here. Because there is it's a men's version of hypergamy. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, so what they saying is men, a lot of times men, okay, women practice hypergamy, but what men practice is hypogamy. Okay. It basically hypergamy for women is marrying up. Okay, women are trying to marry up. But in men tend to marry down. And the reason why they marry down typically is because of it's a power thing. Women that are like, in a, let's just say, in a downward status, they have a downward status than the man. Like prime example would be basically Prince Harry marrying Meghan Markle. Basically he's basically a prince, a royal prince of basically a mighty nation, right? And probably one of the mightiest nations in the world, right? He marries basically a commoner that's an actress that's high, because an actress is 100 octane, actress. She wasn't she was not like Holly Berry, like a A-list actress, but she was fairly well known actress of a hit series, which was Suits. But that will be considered hypogamy. Okay, let me actually type that out so you can see what I'm saying, because this is what people tend to do. What men tend to do is practice hypogamy, hypogamy, hypogamy. Okay, whereas they marry down. Okay, um, so that's very, very interesting. Maybe we'll talk about that in further discussions. Talk about how men tend to practice hypogamy. Um, it's a guy called Officer Charles Faulkner. He said black men are the garbage men of the dating world. Um, and I guess, yeah, black men, we practice a lot of hypogamy. Even me, my ex-wife, she wasn't that far off from me. Actually, she really wasn't that much off, other than the way her parents were was definitely her parents was probably lower class. But her grandparents actually was very similar. If you go back to her grandparents was has the same class as my grandparents, because her grandfather was basically a jazz musician. So it's just her parents was just messed up. And my parents were middle class, like most of my life they were middle class. Both my parents worked, so it was, yeah, it was like, basically that's what I lived in the middle class suburb, not upper middle class, but like kind of middle class and lower middle class. But yeah, I when I married, I definitely married um hypogamy was definitely used. So that's the thing. Because that's why men, talk about women when they say, your boyfriend or your baby daddy was basically a bum, and then now you want a millionaire, for to you want to marry a millionaire now. Your baby daddy and the men that you date normally are basically ex dope boys that are bums. Now you want, a millionaire or a guy that makes $100,000 a year, which less than 20% of men across all populations make over $100,000 a year. Some are more common than others, like Asians, whites, others. But as far as in the black community, it's only less than 10%. And I say less than 10%, like really like 7% of men that make over $100,000 a year. So that's just some things to think about. I'm gonna end this on out.